Today on Live with Lori, Florida Senate President Mike Haridopolos stops by to whip up a tropical treat. Pecan crusted Mahi with pineapple mango salsa is on the menu. It's political food for thought here on Live with Lori.
Hi, and welcome to Live with Lori, where we do serve up political food for thought. Today, our guest is Florida Senate President Mike Haridopolos.
Hello.
Hi, Mike. Thanks for joining us.
Great to be here. Thanks for the opportunity.
Well, here, you get to wear our Live with Lori apron.
Okay, great.
Today, we're going to be cooking Mahi with a pecan crust with pineapple mango salsa.
Awesome.
Are you up for that?
I'm totally up for this.
Okay, well, the first thing we're going to do is we have about a cup of crushed pecans and about a cup of panko. If you can just dump those in there.
All right.
And we'll add a little bit of salt and pepper. And while you're doing that, you know, back when you first were elected, you started something called the Freedom Caucus. Can you tell the people a little bit about that? Just a little bit of that salt. There you go.
Very good. Well, when I first got to Tallahassee, we had these overwhelming Republican majorities, and I thought everyone is going to be financially conservative like I was. And what we found out is a lot of people are what they call now rhinos, Republicans in name only, where they would run as conservatives to get elected, and they got up there, and they thought raising a tax or raising a fee was a good idea. And so a few of us got together and said, well, I didn't run on this kind of proposal or platform. And so a bunch of us got together in the Florida House of Representatives and formed a thing called the Freedom Caucus, where we work with groups like Americans for Tax Reform and simply said, you know, we're going to make a pledge not to raise a tax and not raise a fee. And it was really helpful because to some of the weaker Republicans, it gave them a backbone and it gave them a little more focus. Because sometimes when you get up to Tallahassee, and I can only imagine how it is in Washington, once they get up there, suddenly they forgot why they ran for their office in the first place. They just kind of want to get along.
Forget their promises, don't they?
Exactly. So we formed the Freedom Caucus, and it was really strong in the House. And the problem was the Florida Senate was even more rhino-esque, if that's such a word, than the House. And so when I moved over to the Florida Senate, we formed the same thing in the Senate, the Freedom Caucus. And now the Freedom Caucus is the majority caucus,
right,
with a much more conservative Senate.
Well, that's, you know, that's really a good thing. While you were talking, what I did is that I put some mayonnaise on top of this fish. Now, I know that there's going to be purists that say, oh my God, I cannot believe she just did that. Mayonnaise is a binder. It's really great if you want to do health conscious, get the olive oil kind, but do not use the lower fat because it will break in the oven. Now that you've got that all mixed up, I'm going to have you pick the fish up and then just dunk it with the mayonnaise side down. Now that you're, you know, got your hands dirty with some fish, you know, let's talk about the 10th Amendment. For those people who forgot their 8th grade civics class, Mike, why don't you explain what the 10th Amendment is and then some of your opinions on the 10th Amendment.
Sure, sure. For those who don't know, of course, the 10th Amendment is a vital part of our United States Constitution. Our government, unlike our original founders, meaning the English, we believe in shared responsibility between the national government and the state government. Back in England, they believed in just a simple national government. What the 10th Amendment does, it provides opportunities for the state government to have real say in what happens in the home communities. And so, of course, you have the Constitution, which outlines the power of the Congress, the President, and the Supreme Court. But with the 10th Amendment, we assured in the Constitution that the states who have a vital say. In the beginning of our country, we would have certain national responsibilities, those which are written down, called delegated powers, and all that the national government did not use, the state government used, meaning the 10th Amendment, called the reserve powers.
Right.
And sadly, over time, what has happened? More and more power has gone up to Washington, and that means less power for the local governments, let alone state governments.
And what are some of the things that you've done since you've been in the Senate to try and limit the, like the overtaking of our state government by the Fed?
Well, the biggest, most recent issue, of course, is now known as Obamacare. This is a program where you're seeing a massive government takeover of our healthcare system, the best in the world, I might add. And so what I'm worried about is that direction. So what we did this year is that we passed basically a constitutional amendment in Florida that individual citizens would not have to live under the mandated coverages from Obamacare. And we believe that by giving the individual the responsibility to decide how they want to have a health care plan, whether it be insurance or a direct pay, or a direct relationship with their doctor for that matter, was important. And I'm happy to report that that will actually be on the ballot in 2012. And it's our way as a state to step up and say, one size does not fit all.
Well, Florida was one of the first states that got that whole program running. I mean, you were part of that, weren't you? Yeah.
We sure were. And it's important because, again, in 2010, the election was all about taking responsibility back as a state. And that's exactly what we wanted to do. And that's why, unfortunately, we had to sue our own national government so that Obamacare would not be in effect for Florida. And also the idea that we were willing to take responsibility, because the program that's most tied to Obamacare is a thing called Medicaid, not Medicare, which everyone gets when they turn 65, they've worked.
Right.
But Medicaid is welfare health care. And the sad thing about Obamacare is that when it goes into effect, the number of people on welfare health care called Medicaid will go from around 3 million Floridians to 4.5 million Floridians, which is about a 50% increase. Well, we're having troubles paying for schools and roads. There's no way we can afford this new big government mandate and expanding the welfare programs. So we created our own Medicaid system that we're looking to get a waiver for, meaning getting the okay from Washington to administer.
Well, do you think that you'll get that before it goes to the Supreme Court?
Well, right now we're in negotiations as we speak. And I'm hopeful that we will be able to get that done. Again, we passed it. Sadly, this is the scary part, we've got to ask for permission from Washington, D.C. to get that waiver. But we think that we've won 2 out of the first 3 battles in the courts.
Right.
Now, first under Bill McCollum as Attorney General. Now our new Attorney General, Pam Bondi, and I and Rick Scott are all working together, where all we're asking the federal government to do is allow us to be responsible as opposed to a one-size-fits-all.
Allow the state to do it their own way, the way that it should be.
And that's what the 10th Amendment's all about.
Right. Well, that was a great answer.
Okay.
You know what? While we've got this fish and it's got a nice crust on it, we're going to take it out and we're going to put it in this pan. You want to fry it just until it gets that nice crust on it. And we're going to put it in a 350-degree oven. We'll be right back, and we're going to be making salsa when we come back.
When Live with Lori returns, things get sweet in the kitchen as Lori prepares her pineapple mango salsa. But her questions for Florida Senate President Mike Haridopolos are a little spicy. Can he handle the flavor combination? Stay tuned.